Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Thursday, August 15th, 2019. On today's show, we're going to talk about the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film writers Hoai-Tran.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris Evangelista.
Hello, folks.
So, before we started recording, HT asked Chris, are you wearing your sunglasses that you received in the mail?
No, I asked if he was wearing his super cool sunglasses.
Yes.
Yeah, so what happened? You got a package in the mail promoting
Rocketman. Yeah, I got. For those who don't know, out there in the regular world, we press folks. Sometimes we get these things. They're called press drops, where it's usually to promote. At least for me, it's usually to promote home video stuff, primarily because I cover Blu-rays and home video stuff for the site. So, and sometimes when I get sent, a promo copy, they also include little tchotchkes, little knickknacks. And this time I got some Elton John-like sunglasses, and also a karaoke microphone, and also a jacket, which does not fit me. But so, thanks, Paramount.
Wait, is it Elton John's jacket?
No, it's like a satin, like baseball jacket, and it just says Rocketman on the back. It's actually kind of cool. If it fit me, I would wear it, but it's a size medium, which I will never be. So maybe I'll give it to my dog or something. I don't know.
I'll take it, Chris.
All right, I'll mail it to you.
Yay!
Okay, let's start talking about the news. News has kind of slowed down a bit, but we have some things to talk about, but I think this is going to be a shorter than usual episode. Let's start off first with this thing on spoilers. Like, there's a new tool designed to detect spoilers, and it doesn't work that well, is what I'm hearing. HT, what do we know?
No, it does not. But this is a tool created by a group of researchers at the University of California, San Diego, who set out to make an AI tool called SpoilerNet, which is capable of accurately identifying sentences that are likely to give away major plot points. But the problem is there's no definitive definition for what would be a sentence that would give away a major plot point. So they first ran this tool through the Goodreads data set and created their own data set with book reviews in which they would flag words like killed, murdered, other such words. And they tried it again with, for example, Avengers Endgame with the word snap. But the problem is that it is sort of a blanket tool. It's kind of similar to what you see with like a Twitter filter tool when you filter out one word, but it takes out everything that has to do with snap. So it could be something like a snap decision or snap judgment. So this is something that is still being tested. I don't know if this is going to be rolled out into an actual like extension on Chrome or something, but for the most part, it's kind of impossible to create a spoiler-free tool. But this is something that they were researching, and they discovered that for a lot of reviews that they studied, book reviews, movie reviews, the spoilers were often clumped towards the latter part of the review. So that's kind of a fun fact to hear, even if this tool doesn't necessarily work. But if you guys want to just use your own judgment.
Isn't that like obvious? Like when we write a review, we usually put the spoilers near the end, or if we're talking linearly about the plot, the spoilers come to near the end.
Yeah, but now we have a study to confirm that.
I don't know. I feel like an AI is not going to be able to detect spoilers. What I think we just need is these social networks to just like enable easy to use spoiler tools. And I know that makes it so that the user has to do it. And like, we can't rely on every person on the internet to actually tag their things with spoilers. But like, if I want to have a sentence in my tweet that's spoiler, I should be able to like highlight that and put spoiler, press the spoiler button, and it will like make it, hidden for users. Like, I feel like that would be the easy way to handle this.
So that's similar to the tool that people use on Reddit.
Yes.
The sort of blackout spoiler tool. I mean, that's nice, I'm sure. And it would require more work on our part, so that would be fun. But I also think that people should just get less sensitive about spoilers. Just don't read a review if you don't want to get spoiled, guys.
Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy to me, that people read a review and then are upset that there's spoilers in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read, like, Chris, I know you've gone back and read, like, a lot of, like, old Roger Ebert stuff. Like, he ruins the entire movie in those old reviews.
Yes, yeah. I mean, because there was a time where, I guess it was, back before the internet was so prevalent, where it didn't really matter. And also, yeah, that's just how things were back in the day. Back in the good old days.
I think reviews were almost used as, like, a tool that you could go back and be like, oh, what was that movie about? Like, now we have Wikipedia, so I guess, like, we don't have to spoil the whole movie in the review. But, it's used for different purposes, I guess, these days. But people are freaking out over spoilers, and it looks like AI is not going to help us get rid of them. So let's talk about Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker movie, which, by the way, I may or may not have talked to someone who saw this movie and really, 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 really liked it. But that may or may not actually have happened. And he has recently, Joaquin Phoenix has recently gone on record explaining how he came up with his Joker laugh, and it's kind of surprising. Chris, what do we know?
Yes, this ain't your daddy's Joker film, folks. Joaquin Phoenix is taking this very seriously. And he gave an interview with an Italian magazine, and he revealed that to come up with his laugh, rather than just doing, like a generic maniacal laugh, which is pretty much what Jared Leto did for Suicide Squad, he actually studied people with a medical condition called it doesn't actually have the specific name, but it's a disorder called pathological laughter or crying, where people literally just can't control when they start laughing or when they start crying. It's an actual medical condition that some people have, and Joaquin Phoenix went out and studied people with this to get that laugh down, because he's taking this really, really seriously. And on one level, that's kind of cool. I don't know how this movie is going to turn out. I have my doubts based on some insider knowledge I have. Yeah. But I do know that no matter what, no matter how this film ends up, I have confidence that Joaquin Phoenix will do a good job, because I really do think he's one of the best actors working right now. And I know that, even if the movie itself ends up stinking, he'll still be worth seeing in it.
I've never heard of this disorder before. Like, I'm trying to imagine, like, would I be able to go to the movies if I had this disorder, and like during a really sad, dramatic movie, just like break out in laughter? Like, how do you handle that disorder?
Well, in this day and age where everyone is a rude asshole, it probably doesn't matter. You can get away with it. I've been in movies where I'm watching really dramatic stuff or really sad stuff, and there'll always be like one person who's just like, ha ha ha, like, and like maybe that person had the disorder though. Maybe I was being too harsh in judging them, but I do know that
you called them an asshole and they had a disorder.
Yeah, now I feel bad. So thank you, Joaquin Phoenix, for teaching me something.
Okay, let's move on to Star Wars. Let's talk about this rumor that Ewan McGregor might have signed on to reprise his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. HT, what do we know?
Yes, a new rumor has surfaced that Ewan McGregor has signed on to star in an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And this is something that may or may not be announced at the D23 Expo that's coming up, but it's a rumor that came from a report from Cinelix. And they don't have many details for now, except that Ewan McGregor has signed on to star in some sort of Obi-Wan Kenobi project. But we don't have anything concrete at the moment.
Yeah, and while this is a new rumor, we've been talking about this for, I think, over a year now. There's been rumors that there might be an Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone spin-off film when they were doing a Star Wars Stories, which looks like they've abandoned at this point. And there's been rumors that they were going to do a series here. Is this a wise idea? Like, because I feel like Disney's taking the wrong lessons from Solo: A Star Wars Story. And I think the lesson they're taking is that people want less Star Wars, which I don't think is necessarily the case. If you look at Marvel, Marvel is doing really well, and they're doing 3, upcoming 4 films a year. I think the lesson is that, like, they want new characters and new stories. But, I mean, HT, what do you think?
Well, I think Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan didn't really get his due in the prequels. At least he was a really popular character and people wanted to see more of him. And fans have been kind of jostling for an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie or series for a while now. And I think that if Ewan McGregor was to sign on, then it would be more successful than the Solo movie, because Solo did have what's his name, Alden Ehrenreich starring it, and he was much less he's much more of an unknown than Ewan McGregor. So I think that it could work and it could have its fans. I do think that people do want to see new Star Wars, but at the same time, I think it's too early to say what lessons Disney is taking for now, because we don't really know the plans for their Star Wars projects in the future, at least not until possibly a series of announcements at D23.
Yeah, I guess my biggest problem with this is I like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and I would love to see him reprise that role, but is there really story to be told between, Revenge of the Sith and Star Wars: A New Hope? Like, he's in the middle of the desert of Tatooine, like
Farmer Ben.
Yeah, he's watching Luke from afar. Like, Cress, is there any story to be told there? Like, is he just like a ninja taking out people that are coming after Luke? Like, I don't know. Like, it sounds kind of dull.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to do this, I would like it to be like a completely standalone thing. Like, I don't want a bunch of winking references to stuff we already know. Like, I didn't dislike Solo, but we didn't need like, oh, here's how the Kessel Run happened. Like, if you want to make a movie that's just like Obi-Wan in the desert doing his own thing, it has nothing to do with Luke or anything like that might be interesting. Like, make like a Western something or something like that with Obi-Wan in it. But if it's just going to be about him, watching over Luke and reflecting on his past, then I don't think we need that. But what do I know? I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a way, like, Solo Star Wars Story. I know there's a lot of fans of that film out there. They made this movement, which is not as loud and obnoxious as the release the Snyder Cut movement, but they're trying to get Solo 2 to happen, which I don't think it's ever going to happen. Maybe, Solo left things open for the story to go. There was like a continuing storyline that, was abruptly stopped because they're probably not going to make a sequel. Maybe there's a way to tell that story in like a Obi-Wan movie, because, obviously him and Darth Maul have a past, and we saw in Rebels that they come to a head. So maybe that could happen. I don't know. But again, Chris, you don't want that, right? Like, you want something just a completely different adventure.
I mean, really what I want is a good movie. That's really all it boils down to. If you can find a way to make that stuff good, I'll like it. But
well, this isn't even a movie. This would be a show. So that would be like...
Oh.
I like what Chris is saying, though. I think you could make that into a series. Maybe something along the lines of the original Hulk series, something where he just kind of comes in like a wandering rogue and saves someone and then kind of wanders off on his own, sadly. A very Western approach to that, kind of a wandering Ronin. So I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
We'll have to see. I'm very skeptical at this point, but these guys at Cineflix have some good sources, so we'll see. D23 is coming up, so we'll find out then. A bit of news that hit yesterday after we recorded the podcast is there's an interactive haunted house movie coming from Amblin. Chris, what do we know?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. So Alexandre Aja, who directed Crawl and the Hills Have Eyes remake, he's directing this film. It's being produced by Amblin, of course, which is Steven Spielberg's company.
So wait, pause here. So it's a filmmaker you like, and it's a studio we all have like an affection for, right?
Yes, and then on top... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on top of that, it's a haunted house movie.
Right, and it's also... The idea is from Mike Flanagan, who is a horror filmmaker I really like. He's directing Dr. Sleep. He directed The Haunting of Hill House. So everyone involved with this is very promising. However, here's where things get weird because, as you said, this is an interactive haunted house movie, which means... it's basically a choose your own adventure film. And while we've seen stuff like that before with the Black Mirror film Bandersnatch, this is apparently being made for theaters, and it's going to inspire people to take out their phones and control certain actions in a theater. Now, for one thing, I don't know how that's going to work, how you're going to have a theater of people.
Well, let's dissect that for a second. There's this new technology that allows people to use their phones to affect what they're watching.
Right.
Now, is that on its own, is that interesting to you?
Not really. I mean, I sort of enjoyed the experiment with Bandersnatch, even though it's not the same technology, but it's the same sort of idea. But that was also in the comfort of my own home. I can't imagine I don't understand how this works, where you have a bunch of people in one theater. Like, what if one person wants one thing to happen, and then the person sitting next to you wants a completely different thing to happen? Like, how? I don't know how this is going to play out. And then on top of all that,
well, I think it is a democracy, Chris.
Oh, what? You have to vote?
Yes.
Is that how it's going to work?
I think it's whatever gets the most votes is what happens, is what I would guess.
I guess. And then on top of that, anything that inspires people to take their phones out in a theater is just bad in my mind. Like, we already have a problem with that to begin with, and now you're literally encouraging people to whip out their phones and use them in a movie theater. It just sounds like a really bad idea. Like, if this were being made directly for Netflix, so it's a one person thing, then I might be a little more enthusiastic about this. But the theatrical angle, I don't know, man. It's making me very, very nervous.
See, I'm more interested in seeing these interactive experiences. I'm not a big gamer, but I like narratives, and I like the idea of an interactive movie if it was done right. But the thing that bothers me is I guess the same aspect of what it bothers you is I don't want people on their phones during the movie. And when they're on the phone to vote on something, I'm sure that, some message will come up on Facebook, and then they go to Facebook, and then they get all these people are going to be on their phones doing their own thing and not actually watching the movie. I feel like if you're going to do this, why not make a very cheap remote that has 3 colored buttons, and you give it to everybody walking in, kind of like you give 3D glasses, and then they press those buttons. That would be a lot less distracting than people on their phones. HD, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have the same thoughts as you guys. I don't like the idea of phones out in the theater, but I do like the idea of an interactive haunted house. I think that's cool. I don't do a lot of haunted houses, but I like the idea of you being part of the narrative. I know in Japan they have haunted houses where basically you become part of the story, and you're given a mission to do something, and there's really only one person who's chasing you around this haunted house. So there's a school, for example, where you have to go to the center and cast a spell, but there's just one woman dressed in a white dress who just chases you around corners the entire time. And I like that idea. I don't know if that would relate at all to this interactive haunted house movie, but I think it's cool, but yeah, I don't know how it'll work out in a theater setting.
I'd like to imagine that a group of people paid $20 to go see this movie, and then in the first 10 minutes, it's should he go in the house, and everybody votes no, and then it just ends happily ever after with the credit sequence. And then you're I wasted my $20 on this. I'm sure that won't happen, but okay. Let's talk about RoboCop Returns. This is the new film from director Neill Blomkamp, who it turns out it doesn't look like it's happening after all.
Yeah, looks like RoboCop Returns is going to be in need of a new commanding officer.
So what happened, HT?
Neill Blomkamp has tweeted that he is now off RoboCop. He confirmed in a tweet that he is shooting a new horror thriller, and MGM can't wait / they need to shoot RoboCop now. But he is excited to watch it in theaters with other fans. This is a project that he has been working on for about the past year, and he's been giving regular updates to fans through Twitter about the status of this movie, which original RoboCop writers Ed Neumeyer and Michael Miner are producing, with Justin Rhodes penning the script. But it seems like Blomkamp is no longer working on this film, which kind of adds to his spotty track record with reviving beloved franchises and sequels in Hollywood.
Yeah, that kind of stinks because, people wanted to see that Alien movie from him, and this RoboCop film sounded like something that people were really interested in. He's good with that mix of live action and visual effects, and this seemed like something that might be up his alley. So what is he doing instead?
His new horror thriller movie. There are no details on it yet, but it seems to be sounds like something up his alley. It might be related to his more recently launched what is it called? Oat Studios, the independent space that he launched in 2015, in which he's been experimenting with short horror and sci-fi films. He had recently tried to adapt one of those short films into a feature recently, but it did not pan out. So perhaps we could be seeing one of those, but there are no details yet on what he's working on currently.
Like, when you have a filmmaker like this who can't seem to get films off the ground at all. I mean, even Guillermo del Toro, who has he's juggling 12 different projects and trying to get one to happen. You have to wonder, why is this happening? Is Neill Blomkamp, is he a hard person to work with? Chris, do you have any theories?
I think Neill Blomkamp is a bad filmmaker, and he should probably just quit while he's not really ahead. He's made one okay movie, and everything else he's made has been either not so great or flat out bad. And I don't understand why every time something like this happens, people are like, "Oh man, Neill Blomkamp can't make this movie." Who cares? Give it to someone else. There's got to be a better filmmaker out there looking for work than Neill Blomkamp.
By the one good movie you're talking about, you mean Chappie, right?
Yes, of course. The masterpiece Chappie.
Chris, don't hold back. Tell us what you really think.
I'm just so tired of seeing people fail upwards. Come on, just throw in the towel, Neill Blomkamp.
I feel like a person like Neill Blomkamp needs a good producer. That first film, and you are kidding, right? The film that you said that he did that was good is District 9, right?
Yes, District 9 is a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie, but it's good.
He had good producers on that. He had Peter Jackson. He had Fran. What's her name? Walsh. Yeah. I feel like he's a person that needs some good producers to make something happen. But maybe this new. Are you excited for this new horror film, Chris?
Probably not. I mean.
Okay, let's move on to our final story, which is not really a news story. It's actually Mindhunter Season 2. Chris has seen the first 3 episodes. We have a kind of a reaction on the site. Chris, without spoiling anything, how is it?
It's great. The Netflix is being really cagey about this season for some reason. I don't know if there's some big twist they don't want anyone giving away or what, but it took an arm and a leg to finally get them to give me the first 3 episodes. And even then, they were like, please hold a full review until you see the full season. But if you want to review these 3 episodes, you can. So I wrote about it's sort of like a first impression thing of the first 3 episodes, and it's great. The first 3 episodes are directed by David Fincher, so they look pretty much better than everything else on TV right now. David Fincher is obviously a fantastic filmmaker, and even if you don't like the story, which is good anyway, but if for some reason the story wasn't good, just watching the way Fincher shoots these episodes is incredible. Because when you boil Mindhunter down to its base element, it's really just a show about people talking. It's people sitting in rooms talking to each other, and that can be really boring. But he finds really exciting ways to make this stuff, pop and flow really well. And there are not many directors who can do that well. So good job, David Fincher.
You heard it here first. David Fincher makes people talking in room cinematic.
It's true.
So by the first 3 episodes, you're still interested and you're still excited to see more?
Oh yeah, I was already excited, but now I'm even more so. It drops in full tomorrow, so I'm really excited that I don't have to wait too long before I get to see the rest of it.
See, I'm wondering if I should go back and watch season 1, because I watched the first couple episodes, which I believe were also directed by Fincher. Is that correct? I think the first 2 episodes.
He directed the first 2, and I think he directed like the last 2, something like that.
Last 2, and I think I got a little bit bored along the way, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was that fall from Fincher to other filmmakers.
Yeah, I do remember. Even though I love the first season, I do remember like the minute it switches to a new director, you can tell like, oh, this is clearly someone. Like even without seeing the credits, you immediately know just from the way it's shot. But this season has some good. It has Andrew Dominic, who directed the assassination of Jesse James. He directs some episodes, so I am excited to see how the other episodes look.
And I'm assuming this is a serialized story, which I would have to go back and watch the first season to understand.
Definitely the first 3 episodes, because they tie up a bunch of stuff that happened in the season finale. But the show is interesting because it does have that serialized nature to it that most Netflix shows have, but it also does sort of standalone episodes too, where if you just watch them on your own, without the other episodes, you'll get it. But for the first 3 episodes, there is a lot of like housekeeping of like tying up loose ends.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's Slash Film Daily. You can find more of all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find links to the stories we talked about on today's show in the show notes. You can find this podcast, Slash Film Daily, published every weekday on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And please rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you tomorrow.